All right, now the next house over is his next pregnancy after the girl. And what you see is, I don't know if you can see it, is the Mars. Okay. I don't know if you can see that Mars, but my daughter's fifth house is his one, two, three, four, five, fifth pregnancy. Bam, you see a boy. Okay. So that Mars right there is her stepbrother.
Can you move the camera a little bit to the left?
Yeah, trying to figure out how do
We
I
can we
get,
can only see the bottom right corner of your paper, if that helps.
yeah, I'm like trying to figure out how do I,
Yeah,
okay,
now down a little bit or towards
like
you.
that
Towards you.
towards me.
Yeah, oh, there you go. That's a lot better.
Okay, I'm
It's
about to
cutting
say
off the top, but
I can't see my own, screen on here. Sorry.
yeah.
Okay. So I want you to see, because you brought up a really good question. How do we tell what house specifically is a stepchild? So we go by the fact that her father is the one that had the other child, not me. Turn the
Ah,
chart for the father, count the pregnancies until you get at that pregnancy, and then that shows that my daughter, and this is what blows my mind, is that my daughter's chart shows that she would have a stepbrother from her father in her chart. That just makes me speechless when I first started really doing this and turning the chart and seeing what I would see. Okay. So, but I mean, and we can go through and I could show you how these are showing that the other two were not siblings. They were lost pregnancies, but, and then her. So she essentially is represented by that Venus, even in her own chart, but it just tells us what's going on and who siblings are. Okay. So yeah, that's where we got a tricky part with you is granted, we're going to have to figure out what house she's in. But generally, anything going on in the third house is also going to be reflected. Now, if I want details, I'm going to want to know what house she's in. So, what do you
yeah.
have?
So I have four older siblings, and then it's me, and then we had a little brother who died, and then it's her,
Okay, yours takes some time to figure out because the sequence is the oldest sibling by blood
which
is
is
the
my
third
father's
house.
side, but her and I share a mother, not a father.
Okay. And then because the blood is what's shown naturally in the chart. So then the second oldest by blood would be the seventh house and then on and on. Now step obviously means that you're going to have to go back to the parent chart to figure that out.
Ah,
But it is still going to show in the third because here's the thing. Anything that affects a sibling is going to have some kind of reflection in the third. That's how you tie them together in a sense or connect them to sibling. So we're going to see something. Now,
okay, I got
um,
my chart up.
now granted, we can't tell specifically or with as much
Right.
detail without knowing the right house, but we can still know that if something's going on in your eighth house and your third house, you've got a very seriously ill sibling. At least we can get that general idea, you know? Now, what's the ruler of your, because you don't have anything in your third. So what's the ruler of your third? I can't see.
Capricorn.
All
It's
right, what's going
Capricorn,
on?
so Saturn.
What's going on with Saturn right now with you?
Should I pull transits or?
Well, there we go. Wait a minute. We got the ruler of your third and the eighth, and you got a sibling that's near death.
Ugh.
So that's obvious. Ruler of the
Yeah,
third and the eighth, boom, you got a sibling that's very sick,
yeah.
Now, if it's something that's more terminal, we have to spend more time and look at is the fourth house involved? Because if it's going to be death, then the fourth and the eighth have to be involved too.
Well, my eighth is Gemini, and the ruler Mercury is in my natal. Mercury is in fourth.
Okay, but we got to look at what's going on with, because that's just your birth chart. That's just saying you're going
No,
to have
I mean the
siblings.
transit Uranus coming up
Ah,
into my eighth,
okay,
which
that's
is
different.
So
Gemini, and then Gemini is in natal
I,
Mercury.
I was I was just really curious. I noticed that your Saturn is at 29 degrees of Pisces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yes.
my glasses. Okay. Um, Did you hear about this news when Mercury was at 29 degrees? I was
Oh,
just
I don't know.
curious when
I
you
don't
were,
know because it's been a couple years,
oh,
like
it's been a couple years, but I'm saying like as far as like her
as far as it worsening.
recently worsening,
I don't know.
because that would have been like maybe, what was that, a few weeks ago?
Well, I'd
When,
say as soon as Uranus went to 29, it got crazy
Oh,
or more severe.
I'll have to check our phone call, the time of our phone call.
There you
yeah,
go.
I'm just curious because, I just noticed when you have an anoretic degree like that,
Yeah.
Now,
that,
Ricky, you brought up a really good point because actually now you know why I resort back to horror when I do, because obviously figuring out houses and transits and progress, so all that stuff can get crazy making and it's time consuming. But you hit it right on the head. If she called you and you got a phone call, you can go off that chart and that will tell you everything about her you need to know
Yeah.
because she's the first house. So if you can go through your phone log and look at the last time she called you and you guys talked, not like a left a message, but look at a call where you guys connected.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you get the time of when she called you, you connected, you talked to her, she's the first house. And that's going to tell you everything you need to know about her health
Yeah.
because it's going to read like her chart. The sixth house is going to be your health. She's going to be the first. And actually, that's one of the things I used to do when I had the radio show, is that people would call me on the radio, they'd be the first, and I would be able to tell them, you have a health issue, or you just lost your job, or you're married, or, you have blue eyes, or all that stuff I'm telling them is based off the first house of them calling. And that tells me everything about that person I need to know. So a shortcut, if you're worried about the health of someone, is just take the time of their call. That's going to tell you what's up in the quickest way possible. Yeah. So I don't know. You probably have like a phone log.
Yeah,
And I
I
mean,
do.
you and I offline, we can sit down and that's what I do. Let's take a time of her phone call and you guys talk and that'll tell us everything we need to know about because I could also see with that Pluto in her fifth, her kids are worried sick. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
means, now this is where it's useful. That means that arrangements are going to have to be made if it's going to be a critical issue. And we can, and you know what, that no one's perfect, no one but God knows. And even as we saw with Stacy, one of our students that I had was a client of mine years ago, we know that even though she died right when I told her she was going to die, she came back. So I mean,
Oh,
anything's
yeah.
possible, right?
Yeah.
So you don't ever tell anybody, oh, I think you're going to die. I've never done that. I had been prepared, like when I went to go stay with my grandmother when I thought she was going to die that weekend. And so I was there to call the paramedics. But you don't
Yeah.
ever tell anybody they're going to die. Now, my mom knew because my mom was an astrologer and she looked at her own chart. And that is messed up. I mean, I remember when Dorothy Allison, I've told you about her, told me, I'm going to die in December of 1999 of a heart attack. I just remember going, God, that must be hard to know that, you know?
Right.
And I didn't really want to look, but I remember my husband was telling me, if something happened to you, you might have to make arrangement. When I wasn't breathing back in 1999, my husband said, you need to look and see if we're going to have to make arrangements. And I was able to determine, no, I'm not going to die, but if it looked like I was going to die, then I would have made arrangements for my daughter while I was alive.
Yeah.
That's some of the uses of astrology is being prepared. I might not be able to change things, but I can at least be prepared, you know? And it's also, I'll tell you what's also helpful. I just told someone, I did a reading right before class where I was able to find things that would help the condition that maybe might not be apparent to the doctors, you know? I just recommended to someone something that, because it was connected to Jupiter and the part of fortune. And I said, this treatment looks like it might be really useful for this person that, I was talking about. So you can also see treatments that might be useful. For example, the diet, what you eat is coming out of the sixth house. So let's say I've got Mars or Neptune going through my sixth house. My diet's probably going to be crap. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
if I've got Jupiter going through my sixth, I'm probably eating too much. I mean, there's a lot you can tell about the diet by looking at the sixth house. Um,
Ugh.
the third house is their exercise, their mobility. Are they getting enough exercise? Are they doing too much exercise? That's going to be coming out of the third. You know, if they're hospitalized or go into a nursing home, that's going to be the 12th. And you know what? Is because I run all these charts. I used to wonder why I'd see the ninth sometimes in hospitals. Like why? And then I started learning that the ninth and the 12th, when they were together, was, those Catholic hospitals like St. Mary's. You know,
Oh, religious. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I saw that. If you look at Princess Diana's death, you'll see the ninth and the 12th where she died. And she did die in the hospital, and it was a religious hospital, and she had the ninth and the 12th involved. I just thought it was an interesting thing that religious hospitals come up with the 12th and the ninth working
Yeah.
together, you know? Um, Eighth house, believe it or not, does show up whether somebody is doing too much or too little sex, even, believe it or not. Dorothy used to make jokes with me about she could tell when somebody was getting in the middle of getting laid by watching their eighth house, and she used to just screw with people like those cops she was working with. Oh God, I'm like, I don't have the heart to do that, Dorothy, but you literally can tell even when somebody's getting laid by the chart. But it also tells you maybe they're not getting enough or too much, or maybe even a sexually transmitted disease would be coming through the eighth, you
Wow.
know? So all these things, but it's such a vast area that all I can say is if you want to look at one particular disease, I would pull like 10, 20 charts of people, celebrities that you can find online or relatives or people, and pull them together and you'll start learning what the common denominators are, what to look for kind of a thing. Like I just, after doing so many charts on Cancer, for example, I learned that Venus Saturn transits and progressions are what you really got to watch out for, that kind of thing. You pick up on things. Colds and flus are like Mars Neptune things and they're gone in a few days. I mean, there's just so much, but I mean, it is important when you're sick also to find out what's wrong with you from the chart because maybe the doctors don't know, as we've seen. You can look at treatments or diets or whatever that might be good for you. How long are you going to be sick? Once you identify the planets behind the illness, when they move, that tells you when it's going to be over. Okay.
Yeah.
Like this stellium right now that we've got in your eighth house. I mean, if we just say once those things move into the ninth, then things are going to get better with her one way or the other.
Yeah.
It's going to pass one way or the other. As to how, I don't know. We got to look at obviously a lot of charts to figure that out, or even just take your phone call is a shortcut.
Yeah, I got that pulled up and I just thought it was interesting. We don't have to go into it, but I just thought it was interesting that
Well, let me look at it.
the first thing I notice is Sun opposite ascendant,
Mm-hmm.
22 degrees in the sixth house. I'm
There
like,
you go.
oh,
Certainly affecting her vitality. If it's the sun, her energy levels, I bet are shit.
yeah,
Is
they
this the
are.
call? Is it what we're looking at
Yeah,
this
this is the
call?
call. Yeah.
Okay. Well, was she at home when she called you?
Yes.
Okay. Moon in the fourth tells me that the caller's at home. Okay.
Ah,
Because you can either tell their question, well, actually that would fit too. Tells me their question or where are they is the moon. Now, I'd say both. She was home and I think she was worried about her death when she called because of the moon in the fourth. Because moon in the fourth would be someone who is worried about an end of life, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, now she's Mercury. Is that a Virgo ascendant?
I think it's
Uh-huh.
Virgo.
Is it Virgo? Okay. And we got Mercury in the sixth. Okay, she's sick. You know, we got
Yeah.
Mercury. You're right. Mercury, the ruler of the first, is in the sixth house, conjunct Saturn in the nodes, telling me that the caller is sick.